trying to get to the bottom of their deck because they're not playing a Highlander deck.
You asked for it.
And to activate Zephyrus and Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, which is often, you know, pretty big for their win condition. It just happens so much later in the game because of that Albatross.
That's right. So here we go. Grand Finals about to begin between AyRoK, 7-2 score, up against xBlyzes, who was finishing Swiss at 8-1. But not going to be that significant because in the Grand Finals, it is single elimination. We're going to get things started off fast and furious. Zephyrus on 2 into the Wild Growth. You know, it's a play that we see Highlander decks that struggle to curve out. They smooth it out a lot when they have Wild Growth on 3. However, AyRoK does have his own curve himself. He's got a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way through.
Yeah. Problem with the 4, though, currently, is that Scion of Ruin, he doesn't even have any invokes currently except the Shield of Galakrond, which comes online after. Bloodsworn Mercenary could end up being a play that he wants to make on 4. If, for instance, he can find a way to damage this Bomb Wrangler, because that could provide a lot of additional damage.
Ooh, speaking of damage, this Bomb Wrangler, as you said, will being able to trade in, but that Flame Ward might be very useful to thwart some of the development from AyRoK. So sequencing and how you choose to order this is going to be important. I mean, they kind of mean the same thing, but when I talk about is how are you checking for the secret? Are you checking for Splitting Image? Are you checking for Counterspell? Are you checking for Mirror Image? These are the things that are going through AyRoK's mind right now.
Yeah, that attack I find interesting. I'm trying to figure out exactly, because now he either has to trade over Boom Wrangler and then check for face secrets with the 1/1, which I guess that's good.
Yeah, this will check Vaporize and Ice Barrier and Flame Ward, and it'll show that it is Flame Ward. And another Boom by Survive. So he basically wastes an extra damage in 1/1. But not that big of a consequence, I find. And, you know, consequently, AyRoK, he did have a 4, and I kind of didn't realize exactly how awkward his 4 was, because he has combo cards. He has Cruel Taskmaster, Scion of Ruin, and he has Bloodsworn Mercenary, and all of them usually come with some kind of condition to maximize their full value.
Yep. Man, one thing that we've noticed from xBlyzes, as we've seen him quite a few times over the course of the weekend, especially today, is that he plays incredibly quickly.
Very fast. xBlyzes is one of the fastest players that we've seen on the Masters Tour in quite some time. People have made comparisons to Casey. And, you know, I can definitely see that in terms of speed. Whether he has the consistency of Casey is yet to unfold before very eyes.
We're starting to get a little out of control, though.
Yeah, this is starting to get to the tipping point where there's a ton of damage being poured in on both sides. But,
nice.
You know?
How about the Calicos off the top?
Calicos to a free spell. AyRoK, unhappy to say the least, but his problems aren't solved just yet. Wow! Are you kidding me?
Those faces from xBlyzes as well are just priceless. He's like, wow, all right.
Damaged Stegatron. AyRoK with a round of applause.
Yeah. So we said the board was getting out of control, but immediately look at that turn. From no board, gets a 2/4, 4/12, and 2 5/12s for 8 mana. And I don't even know, AyRoK has to use his entire hand just to kill these 2 damaged Stegatrons. And the Calicos are just going to stick around for a turn, as well as the Stargazer Luna.
Yeah, we've just seen this happen so many times. The Mage, wow, finding Arcane Intellect as well. Not that he really needed it per se, because he still had Malygos to generate big spell, but AyRoK is so dead. He has no way to fight back against this onslaught of minions. And when you unlock Luna's Pocket Galaxy and you don't die, and you're able to get the card draw going, we've seen this happen before. We've had an entire meta of it. And consequently, Luna's Pocket Galaxy got reverted from its buff from 5 to 7 mana. And now AyRoK, even if he draws the next 3 cards exactly how he wants to, like if he was able to summon over the Innkeeper and tell him what he wanted to draw, he still would lose this game, I feel like.
Yeah.
This is so hard to come back from.
Yeah, he honestly just kind of has to kill the Stargazer Luna just to stop the draw engine and, you know, pray. But at the moment there is 6, 10, 14 damage on board, so not quite a kill with Alexstrasza. He also can take off a little bit extra with the Sign of Ruin. And honestly, this is probably wise to go face.
Yeah, it's actually calculating a little bit extra damage in case he can finish the game with Core currently in the hand. The taunt. That taunt is bigger than xBlyzes realizes, although he's probably got an inkling of an idea. AyRoK chose to go face to the clear minion. That is it. AyRoK taps out. xBlyzes wins game number 1 in the grand finals of Masters Tour Arlington.
Yeah, don't blink, because this one could be pretty quick. Now, xBlyzes is playing the Control Highlander Warrior, so that one could be a little bit longer, but it seems like he does make very fast decisions even with that deck. But, you know, when you have that kind of start, he had maybe like 1 turn of risk. The turn where he played Luna's Pocket Galaxy and then he went into 8 mana with a pretty scary board and not much outside of just the Stargazer Luna and hope for a chain of good draws. And that's what he got. That's what he set himself up for with the Wild Growth from the Zephrys early on in the game. So quick win for xBlyzes.
Yep, so xBlyzes gets that Highlander Mage checked off, and you know, if it wasn't Rogue being banned, based off some of that data out there, Highlander Mage was probably another candidate worth banning. But you know, if you banned the Mage and you leave up their Rogue, and let's say they ban your best anti-Rogue deck, it sets up the situation where you could have cornered yourself. So Rogue's a safe ban on both sides, totally fine. But Highlander Mage has also been such an effective deck. And the wins have just been all over the board. Like sometimes it wins off a Pocket Galaxy, sometimes it wins off of a Dragon Queen, sometimes it wins off of a Zephrys setup. Sometimes it wins just through control and destroying everything and fatiguing your opponent. And that's kind of why there's been such a hard time nailing down why this Highlander deck, this Highlander Mage deck, is the bring for tournaments. I think players don't feel like it has the consistency, and yet somehow, time after time, it keeps proving itself.
Yeah, and it has value. It has control tools. It even has quite a wide range of early minions, which is something that, you know, it's kind of struggled with in the past. But a pair of Bomb Wranglers on board.
Yep, this is Galakrond Warrior Mirror.
Control Highlander Warrior.
Oh, Control Highlander Warrior. I don't know why I thought the xBlyzes was playing a Galakrond Warrior. I just misspoke there. You are correct. It is a Highlander Warrior.
It is a Bomb Wrangler mirror on the board currently.
Yeah, Highlander Warrior does struggle a little bit versus the Galakrond Warrior that's able to put out a ton of aggression right before you're able to start turning back the tides. Because of the lack of burst and charge minions in the game, it feels like Warrior has been getting away with not playing as many taunts these days. I was kind of pointing out, do you spawn a single taunt minion in the Highlander Warrior deck list?
Well, Siamat is one of them, and that's pretty much it.
I mean, we don't really count Siamat inherently as a taunt minion. We tend to use it for other reasons.
It can be, though, but outside of that, it's random generation from some of their abilities, like Dr. Boom can spawn some taunts with Delivery Drone or the Dragon's Roar. It does have a good amount of armor gain, but it's a very reactive deck. It doesn't have a lot of big things until turn 8+, where you can just play something on the board and use that to control the game. So a lot of rush minions, a lot of spells, and then Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, Deathwing Mad Aspect, kind of at that top end.
It feels like the blistering pace of both these players almost seems as if they are in a practice match. That they're trying to see how cards function as opposed to figuring out its straight up optimization. And you know, a lot of players actually play at the speed so they can like quickly get the feel of how the card fits in the deck. And they say, you know what, this might be too awkward and whatnot. And then once they get that card feeling where they're like, okay, I'm satisfied with playing this card, or I want to try it out, then they take more time to refine it. But they're playing so quick back and forth here.
Yeah, it's also a matter of, especially if you're playing a slower control deck, like you need a pretty big sample size in order to determine if this is good for against certain decks, right?
Right.
And with control warriors, that can take a while.
Well, AyRoK has lost the board. Highlander Warrior has seized control. The Galakrond in AyRoK's hand still has a ways to go before it can assume its final form. Korokron and Awaken will clear everything, though.
Yeah, but no development on the turn. Just a little bit of a push of damage here.
Yeah, that kind of puts AyRoK back into the same position as before. So congratulations, you've cleared. But now xBlyzes is going to just develop again. And then AyRoK's back in that same spot. It's like, well, I have to use more stuff to remove. He's not a deck that clears minions very often. It's a deck that needs to be cleared.
Okay, Scion of Ruin.
Yeah, I don't think that's exactly what AyRoK wanted in this spot. I think he was looking for the Maniac to upgrade his Galakrond, but hey, we'll take it.
He can cash in on a Battle Rage here if he wants 2 cards.
Or 3. 3 is excessive, I'd say, but I mean, would you rather have Inner Rage in your hand, or would you rather have another card from your deck?
Back to work.
That's also interesting. Deathwing, that aspect, gonna clear all the minions.
And be left up. Which this deck does not run removal. At least not in the traditional sense. Yeah, sure, you can use Korokron Elite as removal like you had to do on the previous turn, but now it looks like the Battle Rage is going to be used for that 3 cards. Summon some Boobots too, which could help him, you know, wrestle back some control over the board. But really just looking for some invokes to try and get this Galakrond beefed up and try and find the extra damage. Yeah, sure, I guess. Might as well.
Yeah, you know, I'm really curious about that that Battle Rage setup because, again, they're going so fast that it's hard not to... Well, it's hard to exactly talk about stuff that just happened, but remember how he had the ability to trade into the 5 health minion with a 5-1 and then keep another 3-2? That thing probably would have died because it would have traded to another 3-2.
Yes, it's true.
And so now xBlyzes gets the damage and now gets to clear everything. And, you know, the health being a resource is a very real thing for AyRoK because he might need to keep clearing for a while. But now that he has Ritual Chopper, and I think this is the last invocation needed, if I'm not mistaken, for Galakrond to achieve his final form. Now, 4 cards will be drawn. 5-2 weapon.
Yeah. xBlyzes does have, you know, one of the most powerful combos, which is the Omega Devastator plus Ziliax for health gain. But he's wanted to find some turn to use the Dr. Boo Mad Genius.
Wow, he has Leroy in the hand and Bloodthorn Mercenary, though.
He's used 1 Inner Rage and Cruel Taskmaster, correct? There's still an Inner Rage left in the deck?
Right. I think so.
Unless we missed it in the blazing fast turns that we saw earlier.
It's been very quick. xBlyzes does have the Omega Devastator and the Ziliax, though. And that is major life gain right back, and a taunt. AyRoK looks devastated.
Yeah, he's basically going to have to start from scratch. Because that Omega Devastator Ziliax combo will gain a full amount, so xBlyzes is going to go back to 30. Good thing for AyRoK because he did get the Scion of Ruin from the Galakrond buff, so he can clear off a lot of this board and even push some of the damage to bring this 30 back down to a more reasonable number.
Yeah, and you know, he's probably still feeling okay because in the end, he still has Leroy and Bloodthorn Mercenary. So that puts out, what, 20 damage from the hand?
Yeah.
If he gets a activation, well, no, because it'll get buffed from the enrage. So it'll be at least 24 damage. AyRoK still feels confident. I can totally understand why he's been holding some of the cards now. He's been navigating some of these turns. Even though it's been a little quick, it's still been pretty effective to set himself up in a good position.
He's just playing so fast.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
He threw up his hand as if something bad happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that was the greatest outcome he could possibly imagine. Wow.
Okay, so Leroy,
If he's playing Leroy, it must mean that he did use the second inner rage.
yeah, he might be out of resources soon. Leroy, Awaken, Bloodsword, and Mercenary is not enough mana. That's 11 mana to get that combo off.
I'm thinking about Snip Snap, though. I think AyRoK is kind of struggling with the same thing we are. He only plays one Cruel Taskmaster, I know that, and that's for sure gone. He's for sure used one of the inner rages. Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like just Snip Snapping here is better, and might even be some merit in thinking about using the Invoke to try and weave in a little bit more damage. Also, the trade into the Lackey.
Been burned once before.
Yeah, but Brawl's gone. There was only one Brawl in the deck.
Deathwing. Oh my goodness. Dropping to Deathwing to try to answer the board state, but you know, desperate times calls for desperate measures. He doesn't want to die to Leroy Burst.
And there it
Inner
is.
Rage is there.
Yep, that's enough.
Galakrond Warrior showing you why you can never truly count it out, and AyRoK doing a great job navigating through all of xBlyzes' removal. He is going to equalize this series and send it to Game 3 tie.
I mean, after that Omega Devastator Zeliax combo with Blizz going back up to 30, I was like, oh man, it feels like there's no way. But the burst able to come through from Galakrond Warrior, you can see, you know, while the Control Warrior is great at controlling the board state, they're not great at protecting themselves from those combos that damage from hand. Just a severe lack of taunts. Even with all the life gain that he managed to pull together, this wasn't enough at the end of the day.
That's right, so the Warrior is off the board, but you know, we saw Highlander Warrior struggle a little bit for xBlyzes as we went through the top 8. Could we see Deja Vu where it struggles even further against the Mage and the Warlock, TJ? I guess we'll just have to find out, but that brings us to our first break of the Grand Finals. So when we come back, we're going to continue this best of 5 for the title of Masters Tour Arlington Champion presented by T-Mobile. We'll be right back.
Hearthstone Masters Tour Arlington is brought to you by T-Mobile. Rank up with America's first and only nationwide 5G network.
T-Mobile 5G is here, and it's nationwide. While some 5G signals go only blocks, T-Mobile 5G goes miles, beyond the big cities, to the small towns, to the people. Millions of Americans can have access to 5G on T-Mobile. This is just the beginning. T-Mobile, the first and only nationwide 5G network.
The time has finally come.
We're back, Overwatch fans, and we are live from Dallas, Texas.
We are live in New York City.
Come on, this is carnage! It's not stopping! It's not stopping!
the game. Ooh, get rocked. Maybe the Madman can do it. Oh, what is this? Are you ready?
Two games in, and this best of 5 has turned into a best of 3 between these two players featured on your screen. On the right-hand side, you have xBlyzes, and on the left, as you see right there, is AyRoK. Only one player can be the Masters Tour Arlington champion and put themselves as the front runner, the early front runner of being a next Grandmaster for Europe. Part of the reason why it's so relevant to have all these French players in is because they're also kind of fighting within themselves of very limited relegation spots. And the rules were posted fairly recently of all the 2020 Grandmasters rules, which is increased relegation. Every season now, 3 Grandmasters will get relegated, which means AyRoK and xBlyzes are very likely to be candidates to be Grandmasters. But if there becomes a pecking order, and let's say someone else somehow leapfrogs them, AyRoK or xBlyzes would have the edge over the other person. Yes. So even though there's a lot of respect and camaraderie within the French-speaking community, you have to imagine both these players want that title really bad, not just for today and the money, but for this year and being a Hearthstone Grandmaster in Hearthstone.
That's right. It's a very big deal, especially players that have been in the scene and working for it for a long time. Getting into Grandmasters is that validation. But let's get into it. It's going to be Mage versus Warrior. Highlander Mage versus Highlander Control Warrior. And another Wild Growth picked up. Trying to accelerate the game here from AyRoK. Worked out for xBlyzes in that game 1, where he completely snowballed out of control once the Wild Growth and then Luna's Pocket Galaxy came online. We'll see if AyRoK can kind of do the same against Warrior.
Yeah, it's a great point. You know, perhaps because of things like that Wild Growth that led into the ability to play Luna's Pocket Galaxy from hand, that could have been like one of the foundational reasons what led to that snowball victory from Mage just running away with it. And, you know, that's not a bad thing. That just means that, you know, people who are looking at that early game for Mage, yes, you know, draw cards or play your Stargaze and Lunas for tempo, but don't forget the opportunity to sometimes just ramp if your opponent is playing a deck that lets you do it.
xBlyzes still continuing the trend of playing fast. Barely had time to see the options from the Hero Lackey. Immediately chose the Plague of Wrath, and yeah, that's gonna do some work here. Gets use out of it the very next turn.
Possibly just remembering what happened in game number 1. Speaking of, AyRoK has the opportunity to smack it right back with a free power creation thanks to Dragon Caster. Finds some decent to solid minions. Evasive Worm is possibly the best for tempo. You can't really interact with it very easily. And it does have Divine Shield, so even high impact spells or battle cries or rushes require some extra juice in order to remove it.
What to do?
Not quite a damage Stegatron level here.
Not quite.
I'm curious if he chooses Evasive Worm or the Frost Elemental. Looks like he's just going for raw stats.
Statistics. From nothing. Never can really go wrong with big numbers. Dimensional Ripper is certainly interesting, especially based off what we don't see. We know that there are cards like Deathwing, Mad Aspect, which is a 12/12, but we also know that there's like a Tau Crier in the deck. So, you know, there's the very high highs and very low lows. I like taking the consistent option. Warpath in this. xBlyzes not going to win this brawl like he did the previous game. AyRoK has an opportunity to double develop here.
Yeah, he saw the brawl, and it is a Highlander deck. That is the only one. There is one Ethereal Lackey spell that he needs to worry about. We can see that it's the Warpath, but from AyRoK's perspective, does he want to kind of extend this board more so than he would otherwise? The answer is no. He's going to hold on to the Arcane Amplifier and just use that extra mana to take face. His hand is lacking a meaningful draw source. He has Caligos, but you know, we're kind of looking for Stargazer Luna, Luna's Pocket Galaxy alongside that. Arcane Intellect, something to fill up his hand. Mage does not lack value, though sometimes they do lack draw.
xBlyzes showing a lot of respect for a Twilight Drake, you know, utilizing the Rush and Wind Fury aspects of Tiamat instead of a Rush Divine Shield. What do you think about that, DJ?
Yeah, he's just trying to keep the board clean, you know? If he keeps dealing with these threats one by one, that's when Mage can struggle a bit, unless, like I said, they have that hand reload. So he's just trying to take it one step at a time, not let the board get too out of control, because that's when you get to the point where they Alex you and can kill you. And also he wants to make it awkward. He wants to force him to use minions and not be able to use spells to support the minions that he already has, because that's where Mage gets a lot of its value.
Speaking of value, xBlyzes with the War Master Rune into Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, he is ready to go, and AyRoK has to be ready in response. Puzzle Box of Yogg Saron being an option here, chooses to avoid it instead. Oh my goodness, look at this aggression.
Yeah.
It makes sense, saying, you know what? Go ahead, play your Alexstrasza stuff. I'm gonna try to kill you.
It's a turn before Omega Devastator's online, and xBlyzes is forced into a corner here. He's got to play the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza.
Waxadread and Malygos.
Okay. But
Malygos for 0 mana, TJ. 0 mana Malygos.
That's a shame he doesn't have much that can work with it, at least offensively. Chance for lethal here from AyRoK.
Yeah, Caligos, and then if you don't hit it, you still can use Blizzard to freeze the board in place. Force your opponent into an awkward position. Ooh.
What to do? What to do?
Part of me wonders what AyRoK could be considering otherwise. I think when your opponent has Malygos onto the board, it's optimistic to assume Doomsayer would survive. Alternatively, he could Blizzard and just develop like Arcane Amplifier.
That's
a hold. Interesting.
I guess he realizes that Caligos is his only reload onto the board. And he doesn't want to put himself in a position where he whiffs on lethal that turn, and xBlyzes manages to remove the board, and then his reload is an Arcane Amplifier.
Right. If this board gets cleared, what does he have after Caligos? Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, actually nothing.
I wonder.
Besides an Arcane Amplifier, that's just not good enough.
And he also realizes that if Blaze can't answer the Snip Snap, he wins anyway. So.
But Blaze can.
Yep.
He has the Omega Devastator, Goblin, Lackey, and then the Scorch Maw, the Dragon Maw Scorcher.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, this is clever. Using a 1-mana Shield Slam.
Ah.
That deals 0, but 0 plus 5 is still 5. So, interesting. Huh.
So that lets him hold on to the Goblin Lackey, and he has no armor gain in hand, so it's unlikely that he gets a decent Shield Slam anyway. Very smart. All right, let's see.
AyRoK looking for damage, doesn't find it. See the disappointment. But he still has some plays available to him. What can he get instead? He can pick up Cone of Cold and freeze some of the board. Arcane Intellect, I don't think it's going to matter too much considering that he already had card draw in his hand.
There is a lot of damage on board. It's just very scary to leave up. 26?
Yeah, there's too much damage on the board right now, but Cone of Cold will set up a Flame Strike.
Yes.
Time runs out on me.
Incidentally, Blycha may have not positioned against Cone of Cold, but then again, I don't think I would have ever expected it. Yeah, I think we need to freeze here. Freeze the mech so that there can't be any magnetism on it. Blycha has another opportunity here. But what will he do?
Well, he does have a clear with a. It would also clear his own stuff though.
What
With Warpath, hit Warpath.
Life and hope.
Yeah, I think we might just use Goblin Lackey instead, but we'll find out what dragons we get.
Now his door move. Just an 8-8 at this point in the game. He's already used Zephyrus. He used it to get the wild growth early on. He's kind of, I mean, Bly's at 5, but it just feels like so much when you take a step back and look at it, because there's just not direct damage in the deck. He could get Malagos, Aspect of Dragons, but he doesn't have a dragon to activate it, so he's going to have to wait for that. Ah, Boom Squad!
Hecklebot, pull out a really important minion and snipe it? Maybe, maybe not. Dr. Boom Mad Genius and Nozdormu the Timeless comes out. This is a big counter-offensive from Blycha. Behind that War Master Boon and Alex Straza combo. And now AyRoK is in trouble. It might be too little too late to have all of these big threats discount to 1, but he's gonna try anyways.
Let's see. Oh.
Reno Jackson, the Relicologist. Most likely gonna kill off 2 of these minions.
Split the damage a bit, but I mean, I think he'll take that over nothing.
And that will most likely do it, right? Is there a way to close this game from that?
Bloodhouse Fireball. Gorehowl, no, it's not quite.
Improve Morale. Improve Morale can give him a damage lackey. Any kind of damage lackey, and he will settle this game.
Bluegill Warrior? Oh, looks like he's going to hit him and then look for Pyroblast, right?
Yeah, I think he's going for a Pyroblast finish next turn. Sure, clear the board. I'm going to find a way to kill you regardless. Curious that he offered Doomhammer of all things. Oh, Alstraz is just too expensive. But there is the Dragon Queen. Nozdormu the Timeless.
He was hoping for the the Nazari, the other yellow dragon. Imagine if he cleared the board with the Deathwing Mad aspect and then healed to full with Nozari.
Undasta? Is there a beast?
There is.
hand?
There's a bad luck Albatross. Nice.
Got him. Oh, you know, it's just a little bit too late. Imagine you can shuffle the Albatross stuff in earlier. TJ, he needed the Albatross.
He needed it earlier.
One last-ditch effort. And it was a great one, but knowing Pyroblast is in the hand, xBlyzes is going to climb to a 2-1 lead, 1 game away from becoming the Masters Tour Arlington champion.
Woo. And you can see, you know, a big sigh of relief and a very miniature fist bump as xBlyzes realizes that he's 1 game away, and that's a big one because I think he was worried going into that matchup. Mage can just keep building board after board after board. You see the sequence of events that happen later on in the game, how much value and how much big beefy minions that AyRoK ended the game with in his hand. If those had come slightly earlier, then maybe xBlyzes in a different position. But I like the way he played it. He went for that aggressive stance later on. The play with the shield slam was great because it allowed him to hold on to the Goblin Lackey, which let him clear off the Caligos without having to give up his board position in following turns. So just very fantastic heads-up play, and it nets him a 2-1 lead.
Yep, very crafty maneuvering in these mid to late game scenarios. But it comes down to game number 4 of whether or not he can finish it. xBlyzes on the Warlock. This is a problematic class for some, but also the core foundation of a lot of lineups. Warlock has been impressive, but only against a couple of select classes. One of them being Druid. Druid's win rate against Warlock has been abysmal this weekend, which is partially why we see almost no Druid lineups in the top 8.
Yeah, and all Warlock lineups. And it's kind of funny that Warlock was one of the best decks throughout the first couple days, but then it's been one of the worst performing decks now that we've reached the top 8. Just because these players kind of had the next level up read, and the deck goes from fantastic to a liability very quickly.
Oh my goodness.
The double.
The Noah's Ark opening, everything comes on the board 2x2. Double Dark Skies, double Crazed Netherwing, double the bad luck, TJ. That's a bad omen.
That's 4. Albatross
bad luck.
Shuffling. He kept reading the Relicologist. It's never going to be online.
Wonder if Bad Luck Albatross is just like the card to play right now in the metagame.
It feels like it.
Decks.
We've seen it do work against a lot of other decks as well.
Bad Luck Albatross Undasta.
I think we're onto something here.
Bad Luck Albatross Witching Hour. Just keep reviving it over and over. Bad Luck Albatross Grave.
Oh.
So that's a Pyroblast. Pyroblast is very effective against Warlock when it goes down to low life.
I saw the Arcane Explosion and my eyes lit up, but I guess AyRoK's got different plans. Because that was a full clear with a ping to face and a bunch of extra damage to face.
Interesting, interesting. AyRoK doesn't really have much going on, so we just...
Yeah, let's play 4-6.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, does he play Reno Jackson just for tempo?
Giddy up.
I mean, it's not activating his Battle Cry anytime soon.
And it buys him some time to be able to play a Luna's Bach Galaxy next turn. So he at least has some semblance of a board once that comes down.
Sweet. That makes the Albatross only cost 1 mana.
Nice.
Not so bad luck are we now, huh?
And I like the game plan here. Just get him low. He obviously had that in mind when picking the Pyroblast.
xBlyzes not even acknowledging the Reno. Letting Reno just do what he wants. But he's racing as well, and he has his own Zephyrus that he hopes he can activate soon. Ooh, 2 mechanical whelps, which make board clears really awkward because Craze Netherwing, it's hard to play now. Still though, there's the opportunity to play Plague of Flames here, if you so desire. Do we want to play Plague of Flames before this Kronks?
It seems like it. He can trade into both with the Devoted Maniac and Snip Snap, and then still get the 1/1s as well from the Snip Snap, and then play Kronks afterwards. So you have 6/6, 2 1/1s, and the board is completely empty on the opponent's side of the board. But I guess if you just leave these whelps up, it's really hard for AyRoK to kind of trade into it, right? So,
gosh, almost none of his cards did anything. The Highlander cards, rather. Dragon Queen, Alexstrasza, and Zephyrus, and Reno. None of them were active. But this is a strong board, and this sets up Pyroblast lethal. AyRoK, if he just connects with one of these whelps, he will be in the money. xBlyzes does have Zephyrus active, yes.
yeah, 10 cards left. That's pretty average if you consider, you know, how many cards you keep in the mulligan and how many cards duplicates you actually have in the deck. Oh, he's getting close.
He has lethal next turn against AyRoK.
AyRoK needs a lot of help here. We could be looking at his last turn. Needs to find a way to heal. His Nether Breath, Zephyrus into Fireball would end the game.
A very tense situation. AyRoK could be dead if he doesn't find a way to combat this. He doesn't have a way to activate Zephyrus. He's looking for an option. Oh my goodness, Arcane Keysmith.
Counterspell.
Oh, Counterspell is it?
Behold the tools
That'll stop the
of
lethal for
creation.
now. With a Zilliax as a follow-up.
Behold the tools
Blyza doesn't
of
have-
creation.
Does he have the combination? Does Dark Skies cancel it? Nether Breath.
Lava Burst. Lava Burst is 3 mana.
Lava Burst is 3 mana. That should be able to wrap it up. And xBlyzes takes a deep sigh of relief, realizing with the final 3 mana, he will burst his way to victory and claim the Arlington Masters Tour Championship by a score of 3-1.
Just incredibly impressive play from xBlyzes all the way through, and so fast, even at the end. What an incredible journey. Pushing so much damage just in the mid game, disrespecting every single minion that AyRoK played and saying, I'm gonna get this phase damage in. I know what my win condition is. I need to beat you before your value comes online, and he did exactly that. Even playing around the possibility of Counterspell on the very last turn, he had everything mapped out.
That's right, and you know, he plays quick, but he thinks even quicker. The Speedy Demon is your winner. Doa is waiting for a couple words with our winner.
Masters Tour Arlington, but you almost didn't make it here. The semifinals were really, really close against Allen, and when it got to that game 5, how did you kind of find the mental composure, the calmness to win the game?
I know that I had the matchup, so I was pretty confident about that, and that's all.
Okay, just confidence in the matchup. All right, so we've seen a lot of decks being played, probably more different decks in the meta for this tournament than in a long time because of the new cards coming out. A lot of people talking about Druid and Rogue and things like that, but Highlander Mage ended up being very good as well. In your opinion, what's the best deck at this tournament right now?
I think that's, for me, that was Warlock Galakrun.
Okay, cool. So now this year, one of the big goals is to become a Hearthstone Grandmaster. You gonna do it in 2020?
Yes.
All right, well, this is a great start. Go pick up your trophy. Congratulations.
On behalf of Blizzard Entertainment, it is my pleasure to present to you this trophy and the title of Masters Tour Arlington Champion. Congratulations.
Wonderful weekend to kick off Hearthstone Esports in 2020. Absolute domination by the French players, highlighted by xBlyzes' performance.
Yeah, just an incredible weekend. You know, it gave me some chills sometimes when he was playing so fast and just making the right decisions. Very memorable, and I just think that, especially that last series, is showcasing a lot of great decision-making under pressure. So a big, big congratulations to xBlyzes.
A big congratulations to the French-speaking community. I want to say, tu es un garçon, mais aujourd'hui tu es devenu un homme. Congratulations, you became a man. Yesterday you were just a boy. That's it from us in Arlington, Texas. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time for more Hearthstone action.